Hey all, this is Matthew here, and today I am going to be doing the Christian Deep Talk that I am going to be doing today, and then also near the end, at the end, I'm going to be doing a little bit of just discussing my plans for maybe a little bit of gaming footage, mixed in with a bit of gaming talk, because I am very much so thinking of bringing that up. Especially right now, since I am not working for like 3 weeks until school starts again. I have a lot of downtime. Well, okay, let's be honest. I don't have a lot of downtime, but I have a few hours when I get home, and a few hours before I go to work, helping my brother out. So we will see how that goes, but I'll get into more of that at the end. So, in terms of what we are going to be talking about today, it is going to be the concerning modern day debauchery of bachelor and bachelorette parties. So, for me, I have to say, especially in regards to my future marriage, it's definitely something that, I worry about to a degree. But I will also say it's definitely something that I've seen just more and more in general. On social media, you hear about it, especially in terms of just in general. It's like, hey, like basically, the social norm these days when it comes in regards to bachelor parties is like, hey, go wild. It's the day before you're quote unquote locked into marriage type thing. Very very secular type of thing, and it is concerning because it's one of those things where it's like it's almost like a get out of free jail card in a way of like, hey, like you're not married yet, you can do whatever the hell you want. And I say to that like, no, like if your future husband or wife does that sort of thing, I 100% say like with no no qualms, no consciousness, deliberations of like, oh, is this, I'm feeling a little conflicted about this. No, like I 100% agree, and I 100% back anyone that does find out like, hey, like my future husband went crazy, ended up having like a one night stand with like some girl or something that like you were in a striptease, and whatever the case is with that, or like, oh yeah, they were having like a lap dance or something like that. Like for me, like I'm a Christian, so if you want to do that, and you feel like that's okay, that's between you and God. But for me and my future house, my family, like I don't see that as very much being appropriate in any way, shape, or form. And it's one of those things where like if I ever did find out that my future wife, did that, yeah, we'd be done because I that is not appropriate, especially as Christians. Like you should not be treating your bachelorette party like you can have fun. Don't get me wrong. Like you can have fun, you can chill, you can be with your buddies, your friends, your inner circle, and you can have fun. You can enjoy, but like it shouldn't be like a night of debauchery. It shouldn't be like, oh well, I'm gonna be a husband, I'm gonna be a wife for the next day, I'm gonna be locked into this till the end of my life. I'm gonna feel trapped, like, oh shoot, I'm gonna go do a bunch of crazy sexual stuff, or do this or that. Like you can go crazy with some fun stuff. Like I don't see the appeal of being morally and ethically devoid. The day before your like your wedding. Like pretty much like the most sacred, joining of two lives together for the rest of your life. Like I'm just saying, like it's something like I personally, as someone who did grow up in a very, high moralistic and high ethical standard house, especially in regards to the sanctity of marriage and, all that surrounds that. I just don't get the draw of having, just doing a bunch of debauchery, the day before you get married, because it's like if when you're at the altar, the next day or so, or like however long afterwards you have, your wedding after your bachelorette night party or whatnot. Like I just don't see how you could look at your future husband or wife and your conscience is clear, because you did all that stuff, and you broke. those, just basic, I would say it's like basic moralistic and ethical, boundaries of like, hey, like, should you be, especially as Christians, like, should you be doing this sort of thing in general? Like, you shouldn't be doing this at all. Like, if like, and it's one of those things where like, if your future husband was here, especially if Gal was here next to you, would you be able to be like, hey, like, I'm having, this stripper guy or this stripper girl, for the bachelor parties? Can you literally have God be there, and can you honestly say like 100% honesty, no qualms about it, your conscience isn't blaring going off? Like, can you really say that like God would be like okay with that? Like, who would be like, oh yeah, that I'm totally okay with this debauchery, and underneath God, of course, number two, will your husband or your wife be okay with this? And I will say, and because I've heard this argument of like 1,000 different times. Oh yeah, no, no, no. Well, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind this debauch. No, no. Like, at the end of the day, if your future husband or your wife ever says that, that is a red flag. That is not even a red flag. That is like a black flag with skull bones on it, because like, you need to run. You need to like call things off after that, because it's, look, that is like a red flag. If you see that and you stay in that relationship and you stay in that the flow of the marriage, like when you hear it, I'm just saying, like, that's on you, because as Christians, like, if we see honest to goodness, ethical, moralistic, debauchery, like, stuff that happens at a lot of bachelorette parties. Not all of them. I'm not saying everyone does it, but I'm just saying like a lot more than you would think. Is, yeah, it's not right. It's not okay. I mean, like, look, if you're into that, that's between you and your man, you and your woman, and like, you guys have to have a serious talk about that. Like, I look, for the way I see it is like, look, as Christians, we should not do it 100%. It's not it's a non-starter. But thinking from like, like, from the opposite point of view, like, if you're secular, like, look, at the end of the day, you gotta both be on the same boat. Like, are you both okay with that? Are you both all right with that sort of thing happening, with what's supposed to be, and I'm just saying, like, I don't get the appeal of it. I really don't, and like, I'm dead serious. Like, if I ever found out that either my future wife did that, sort of thing like that, like, I'm not okay with that, And same thing, like, look, if she ever found out that I would 100% be in the wrong. Not to say I'd never do that, because I have literally no interest in that, because I find it very disconcerting, and if anything, I would probably get like an anxiety attack, but by my conscience, be like, Matthew, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? So yeah, I just don't see the appeal of it. I really don't. It's just something that's just so alien and disgusting to me that I just can't get my head around it, honestly. Like, and I am gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest. Like, it's definitely something that used to give me more, you know, um, nightmares and stuff, just because it's like, I've seen plenty of stories. I've talked to plenty of people, over the years. Not people that I'm close to per se, just people in conversation, at work, or just online, forums and stuff like that, where it's like this happened to them, and like they found out, like, I I feel like it's worse, even more so, like, if you find out, like, tens of years into your marriage, and I do find it a little ridiculous, if the husband or the wife, whichever, did the debauchery, if they're like shocked that the opposite wants to get a divorce, because honestly, from 100%, moralistic and ethical point of view, they have every right. If I like, if if you find out that, like, hey, like, the woman or man of your dreams, like the love of your life, did that, would you be okay with that? Like, that's just something that's just so vague to me, just it's something that I wanted to make sure I discussed in this, this weekly series that I do for, Christian Deep Talks, because I know it's not talked about a lot at all, online and social circles, and it definitely needs to be brought up more because I definitely know that it's definitely a bit of a black sheep talk of like, hey, don't bring it up, it's okay, it's just like a 1 day thing, sort of thing like that. But like, I'm serious, like I find it very very disturbing, to see in this day and age of just like the sheer willingness to have debauchery of that sort. Like, I mean, like, look, like I said, I'm Christian. It's not for Christians in a whole, me included, obviously. You shouldn't ever do that sort of debauchery, because one, you're dishonoring yourself, you're dishonoring God, you're dishonoring, your future wife or your future husband. Like there's no debate with that. If you try to, like it for and from a secular point of view, it's a bit different. I'd say if both of you are okay with it, but still, from a Christian point of view, especially just in general, like like I said, it's a non-starter. Like you should not be doing that sort of debauchery in general as a Christian, but I would say even more so, especially the day before you get married, just because of like, oh well, especially with the whole, because the argument I've seen the most of with the whole, like, trying to justify it is like the whole like, oh well, I'm gonna be like, with you for the rest of my life, so it's okay. Or like the whole like, oh well, it's, I'm not gonna be able to like have this sort of freedom anymore, so it's okay to do. And I'm like, hell no. Like, hell no. It is not okay to do. Like, it just, it really is very frustrating to see, like, that it has become such a like socially accepted. And I'm telling you, like, especially when it comes to social norms, like that's why like the degradation of, the sanctity of marriage has degraded so much, because, cheating is such a norm, especially if like it's all like, oh well, I'm not happy. So and you're not giving me what I want, so just cheat. It's like, well, logically speaking, like, why don't you just, get a divorce, per se, but also bigger than that, I will say, like, look, like, if you are not like truly in love with that person, if you're not truly willing to spend the rest of your life with them, you should not get married in the first place. Because, like I said, for me, I'm 100% against divorce unless it's cheating, obviously death, or the like with that. Like those are only like, two or so reasons why, very much, from a Christian point of view, like that are the only like two ways that God said it's okay to get a divorce, So yeah, I mean, it's something that's been on my mind. But yeah, definitely something that I feel like needs to be talked about more. I don't think it's a topic that should be like, oh, it's that topic, we can't talk about it. I think that's the issue, is like you need to be able to talk about it freely, because it is an issue in this day and age. And the more you stay quiet on something, you try to hide it, like, yeah, no, a lot of times, here and there, it's just going to be looked on in a more positive light, and it's sad that it is, because it is 100%, not, morally or ethically appropriate, or okay, so yeah. But moving on to a more cheerful topic, which is also why I wanted to kind of join these two talking points per se. Well, not talking points, but videos. That the second one can honestly, the second one definitely could have been on its own, but like I definitely wanted to end this one on a more cheerful note. But yeah, so in terms of gaming stuff, like I said, I am going to be starting to do some gaming talk, podcast episodes, just talking about games. So probably want to start talking about League of Legends first. I'm thinking start talking about some strategy talks. Because honestly, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I haven't really seen any like strategy podcast talks. I know it's not super popular, but hey, I mean, it's not really done too much, and you never know. Maybe people will like it. So, that's one of the things I'm gonna be doing. I'm also gonna be working on doing some historical talks. Maybe most likely for World War II, namely. And then in terms of gameplay, I may work on doing some gameplay. My computer is getting a bit old, so I'm not sure steady that stuff is going to be going. But it is a 1070 Ti, which is pretty darn reliable. Pretty crazy. It's still pumping in 2026. But yeah, so that's probably what I'll be doing for try to get some footage for you guys to watch while I do my talks. But maybe I'll pull out some old Pike OG archive footage. So yeah. But yeah, just wanted to do a little quick. I know it wasn't much of an extension to the beginning of the video for that. For no, the video of the deep talk podcast thing. Um, but yeah, hope you guys got some wisdom from this. And yeah, this is Matthew here. Bye.